Hello, students. Welcome back to your history class. So, we were going to learn about the architecture of the Islamic world of the 10th century. We spoke about all the books last time. Within the architecture, there were religious buildings that were the greatest external symbols of the Islamic world. That means if you look at those buildings, you can till date say that they are from the Islamic time. That is because they have some specific uh, there's a specific symbol, there's a specific way that these buildings have been made. So mosques, shrines, tombs, especially from Spain to Central Asia, they showed some basic designs, that is arcs, uh, domes, minarets, open courtyards. All these were similar. They were repeated. This was a basic design that was found in all of them. And hence you can call these designs uh, as a symbol of uh, Central Islamic land. So it basically all these they followed the same pattern of constructions. Okay, so in if you see design of a mosque in the first Islamic century, the mosque acquired a distinctive architecture form from from the roof that was supported by pillars which transcended regional variations. That these pillars they had some regional variations depending on which region they were from. The mosque also had an open courtyard with a fountain or a font. The courtyard led to a vaulted hall which could accommodate long lines of worshippers, which is an imam. Uh, Imam is the prayer leader. So there were these courtyards would lead to long halls, and these long halls were made basically so that there were long lines of worshippers for an imam. An imam is the prayer leader. There were two special features located inside the hall. There was a mihrab in the wall, which indicated the direction of Mecca, and there is a pulpit from where the sermons were delivered during the noon prayers on Friday. So there were two things in these. One was the mihrab. Mihrab is basically it would point to the direction of. It was a niche inside the wall, which indicated the direction of Mecca. And then there was a pulpit, which is called a minbar. Minbar, that is, these were the sermons which were delivered during the noon prayer, especially on Friday. Okay. Then attached to the building, there was a minaret. Minaret is like a tower. It is used to call to the faithful to prayer at the appointed time and to symbolize the presence of new faith. So this tower was used basically to make a call to all the faithful worshippers who wanted to come and pray. So making a call to them so that they understand that so that they know what is the appointed time. Okay, and this even symbolized the presence of new faith. Okay, then the time was marked in the cities and villages by 5 daily calls for prayers and weekly sermons. So even today, if you are living near a mosque, you will hear these prayer sounds, prayer calls, and these they have specific times of the day. So in the Islamic time, these prayers and these weekly sermons they marked the time of a day for a person. So let's say third prayer is over, and they would know okay, it's afternoon time. Second prayer is over, okay, it's noon. So these helped to mark the time of the day. The same pattern of construction also appeared in caravanserais, hospitals, and palaces. This same pattern of construction was carried on. The pattern of construction is basically buildings built around a central courtyard. Okay, and this was done even in the hospitals and palaces. Okay, the Umayyads built desert palaces in oases and decorated with sculptures, mosaics, and paintings. So basically, the Umayyads they had built a desert palace in oases such as Khirbat al-Mawjad, especially in Palestine. And there was another desert palace, that is Qusair Amra in Jordan. Okay, these served as luxurious residences and retreats for hunting and pleasure. The palaces were modeled on Roman and Sasanian architecture. Okay, and they were lavishly decorated with sculptures, mosaics, paintings, etc. The Abbasids, they built a new city in Samarra in the middle of garden and running waters. This is mentioned in the stories and legends which revolves around Harun al-Rashid. The great palace of Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad or the Fatimids in Cairo have disappeared. So these palaces have disappeared and there is only some traces, and we know of these palaces. How can you say we know about these palaces when they have disappeared? Because they appear in the literary text. We can see them in the literary text. Keywords would be a language related to Hebrew and Arabic. Tribes, there are societies organized on the basis of blood relationship. Crusades is, according to some sources, Pope Urban II gifted cross to all the Christian soldiers to fight in the war. And that's why that war is called crusades. Mutazila is scholars with a theological bend of mind. Adab is a term which implied literary and cultural refinement. A term that applies literary and cultural refinement. Now, there are many passages in your textbooks that you all will have to go through. The first one was about the Islamic calendar. We've spoken a lot about the Islamic calendar. The Hijri era is established during the Caliphate of Umar in 622. The Hijri year is a lunar year. That means we have 11 days difference between the solar year that we follow and the lunar year that the Hijri calendar follows. Okay, over there they have 354 days and there are 12 months, and there are 29 or 30 days in each month. According to them, each day begins at sunset and each month begins with the sighting of the moon. And the Hijri year is about 11 days less than the solar year, that is our year. So no Islamic festival generally falls on the same season. So you will see, if you have not noticed, you can notice it now. This year Ramzan was in May. Please notice when Ramzan is next year. Ramzan, Eid, Hajj, all of these, they keep rotating through the year because there is an 11-day difference. Then there is the Great Mosque of Al-Mutawakkil in Samarra. This is another passage that is there in your textbook. It's on page number, just give me a minute, I'll tell you where is this. Yeah, this is on page number 84. No, this is not on page number. I can't find this. This mosque was built in 850. It is 50 meters high and it is made of brick. It was the largest mosque in the world for centuries. Yes, I can see it. It's on page number 84. Okay. Next, the Quran. Quran you have on page number. Quran. Yes, it's on page number 96. Quran is a book in Arabic which is divided into 114 chapters. It is a collection of messages which God sent to the Prophet. It is a scripture a text vested with religious authority. It speaks in metaphors and it does not narrate events. It speaks in metaphors. That means you have to really, uh, you really will have to, when you have Quran, when you read a verse, you will have to really interpret it. Yes, it does not narrate events. Many hadith were written so that it could help reading the Quran. So one of it is there in your books. It's Quran chapter 31, verse 27. And if all trees on earth were pens and oceans were ink, with 7 oceans behind it to add to its supply, yet would not the words of Allah be exhausted in the writing. So it means there was so much to write that even so much would be less. Yes. So that is Quran. It's You can read more about it on that book. The use of Quran as a source material for history has posed some problems. The first is that it is a scripture, a text vested with religious authority, and theologians generally believe that as the speech of God, it has to be understood literally. But rationalists among them, they give wider interpretations of Quran. Abbāsid Caliph al-Ma'mun, he imposed the view that Quran is God's creation. Okay. He said that Quran is God's creation rather than his speech. Now the second problem is that Quran often speaks in metaphors. It does not narrate events but only refers to the events. So medieval Islamic scholars had to make sense of many verses with the help of hadith. And hadith were written so that we could read a Quran. So you can read more about Quran on page number 96 of your textbook. Now we'll go to Abd al-Latif, who's a 12th century scholar. This is written on the page 98. The title of this passage is The Ideal Student. Okay. So Abd al-Latif, he was a 12th century legal and medical scholar of Baghdad. And how he's talking to his ideal student, that entire narration has been kept on the in your textbooks for y'all. Please go through this. So with this, I end today's class. Y'all will go through all these passages from your textbook. There are 4 passages marked here. You all will find these 4 passages and you all will go through it in your textbook. Okay. So with this, I end today's class. With the rest of the time of the class, you're going to go through these and you all are going to understand these passages and write a little bit about the passages in your notebooks. So till that, stay home, stay safe, take care and keep learning. Thank you.